All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Living the Dream podcast. Today we have Dan Kryzanowski with BV Capital, and he has just great dreams and goals to share with us. He's also a full-time real estate investor, and so he'll have some wisdom with financial freedom and stuff that you guys can ask him about that, but he also might go into on the show. So, Dan, how you doing?
Fantastic, Tim. Great to be here with you today.
Awesome, dude. I'm glad to have you. So we like to jump right in. And if you could start just telling us a little bit about your family, where you're from, and some of the stuff you like to do for fun.
Sure. I'm originally from Scranton, Pennsylvania. So yes, I know, home of the office. So props to that. I'll give my 10 seconds of politics. I played on the same Little League field as Biden, and then I rode with Trump Jr. in college. So
wow.
Yeah, I could say more, I can say no more, but hopefully we have everybody either half happy or half mad at me for saying that. But
yeah,
it's all good. And kind of did the corporate thing for 10 years. I've been in 20 plus countries, all that good stuff. Lived in Spain, lived in Mexico. With the latter, came back with the wife. So it's been a great experience. And have a great son. He's 5.5, naturally 2 languages, going on his 3rd language. And that's my enjoyment here in Austin.
Awesome, dude. That is great. So 20 plus countries, huh? Did your job take you over, or was that just something you did on your own intentionally?
It's been a whole lot of everything mixed. So obviously the North America is tough to count as a country, but I lived in Mexico. I've been to Canada before. I lived in Spain, so you had some of the trips to the backpacking Europe sort of thing. But for work also, I've been, frankly, up and down the Americas to the UK. I would say Asia was a bit more family related, but also, it really is something to take a 16-hour flight and say, would I want to live there?
Yep.
In some ways, COVID may have done the same for many folks, to be away from friends and family for all that. But so it's been a great mix. And, most of all from a mission trip to Haiti, kind of before all the natural disasters. So it's a very, empowering, eye-opening way that I'd strongly suggest folks, especially once you're professional. It's one thing when you're a teenager, and that's great. But once you have the time and the option to choose where you want to spend your time, your money, et cetera, it's something to really do in your early professional career.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. So what are some of the things you like to do for fun?
Yeah. So as I said, it's, being a little bit on the older side, see from my gray hair here, being a parent is awesome. So first of all, it's the toughest startup in the world, but as you can see, as a society, we're still around with 7 billion of us on the earth. So I guess net we're doing pretty good as parenting. And here in Austin is great. I mean, we take full advantage of Friday is sacred pizza and beer night. I grew up in the Irish Italian town. Obviously, with my last name, my halo above, that's not the case. But we keep that sacred. We go to Central Market. It's we're undefeated when my son and I go to a UT football game. So hook 'em from there.
Awesome.
Anything that touches water, we're totally all around. And it's he loves the presidents right now. So anything with George Washington and above, he double downs into. So I'm kind of following that wave, to be honest with you. Personally, I've also been involved with T. O'Brien Youth Hobie. So particularly anybody listening that themselves or child, nephew, niece is a high school sophomore, I strongly suggest looking at Hobie, HOBY.org. It's a leadership seminar for high school sophomores, and the spirit is just to guide you how to think. Giving a Central Texas example, ideally you have a student from the Michael Dell, Westlake, wealthy area, to the Shiner on the farm, down to the Valley, Hispanic speaking, and they're all together for about 3 or 4 days at the end of their sophomore year. So, and this is held across the country, of course, in different states and such. And there's kind of a mega hobie, sort of say in the middle of the summer for people that really. So for me, it was part of a life-changing experience. I know a lot of folks, it's been from a little net positive to true net positive. So I know a lot of folks do a lot of great stuff on the nonprofit side. I just decided to kind of really focus on 1 or 2, and this is one that I've been involved in for a while.
Gotcha. And that is Hobie, HOBE.org?
HOBY.
HOBY.
.org.
HOBY.org. Awesome. That will definitely be in the show notes. So if you heard that and you like that, click on the show notes and go ahead and go to it and reach out to Dan and talk about it with him. So tell us a little bit about your background in corporate and also what you're doing now in real estate.
Yeah, so for many of us Gen Xers out there, you went to a school, you you watch shows like My So-Called Life, and if you have I'd say Kid 90 is a great documentary for folks of my vintage. It's a great Friday night 70-minute thing to look at. But from here, did my undergrad at Wharton, traded for Merrill Lynch. I joke if I did what I did on the debt side, we'd be looking at my island instead of one of these Zoom backdrops. And but growing up Catholic, I'd probably be going to hell because would have caused a financial crisis. So I guess hindsight, we're okay now. But it said viewing life in the Northeast was not a long-term tremendous amount of friends and family up there. So found my way to Thunderbird for grad school. Quick side note, it was our Asian Allies Air Force Base in World War II from a training perspective. Spent time in Mexico, the Bay Area, was with GE Capital, and still the benefit of first GE being top company in the world, but also all of the Six Sigma and the gold standard marketing together. And I was doing business development throughout the world, which included a stint here in Austin for airport real estate. Kind of parlayed that back to Sparefoot, which was my second company I was associated with here in Austin. Sparefoot was the first, I'd say, major aggregator in the self-storage space. They were the first major win for Capital Factory down here in Austin. Capital Factory is the mecca of the downtown Austin startup community. Once again, playing to my gray hair, was able to double revenue, got to meet everybody in the space. And that was part of my journey that through this and also being co-best men in a wedding, learning what self-directed accounts were, I built out my own passive portfolio, my own LP portfolio, which, in turn, I'm sure those follow me on LinkedIn, led to Rocket Dollar. And Rocket Dollar is a checkbook control self-directed provider that really pulled the curtain back on the Wizard of Oz for these self-directed accounts to make it quick and easy to sign up. And, the net effect of being in any sort of B2C role is, well, who are the businesses that will evangelize and benefit on your behalf? And I spoke to 500 different real estate sponsors, probably one a day over the course of a year and a half, invested with 10 or 15, and decided to get in bed with BV Capital just in terms of, say, competency character real estate shops. And, they're in Texas. Everybody's coming here. So it just makes it, I think, a little bit easier and concise for my story. So, summing up, self-storage has been my asset class of choice. I've been very successful as a passive investor, raising X millions of dollars for that. So I'll probably stay involved in storage in one aspect or another, possibly with my own deals. And then on the flip side right now, industrial, just as sexy as storage, but, very profitable, raising money for a $50 million plus industrial portfolio here in Texas.
Gotcha. And so that's kind of your focus now, raising that capital for that industrial $50 million portfolio.
Yeah, and listen, I'm real happy that multifamily still goes up and up, and the music hasn't stopped for many of our friends out here in the space. But if you think of a basic like our parents, grandparents, stock bond 60-40 portfolio, this industrial portfolio is basically your bond and cash replacement. So what you used to put into a AAA bond and hopefully make 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, it's just not happening. You're getting a point or two, 1 or 2%. Here, equivalent, you're getting about 12 to 16%, much more tax advantage than being in a bond, frankly, in some stocks, in a cash CD, et cetera. So very down the fairway, fantastic tenants established, and we've been paying on it basically since day one of the fund. So I'm really proud to say that.
Yeah, for sure. If you had one tip for those out there that want to raise capital, this isn't the real estate version of the show, but one tip for people who want to raise capital, what would it be?
Ask your friends and family first to see if you can even stomach doing the question. Because if you can't do that to somebody you kind of know, love, and trust, and just even get feedback or literally get it out of your mouth, you might get fooled into spending a lot of money with some coach, or think you're going to do Google ads or something. It can get real ugly. So not everybody's wired. I'm going to sidetrack a little bit, but I call it the happy triangle. And this isn't just real estate investing, but bringing it back to real estate, I think you have some great sticks and bricks construction guys kind of in the space, and gals. You have some fantastic banker types, the bankers, et cetera. Then you have your great marketers, which I would include the top point in the fundraising side. And very few folks are good at 2. Nobody, I don't think, is good at 3. And there's probably one that just makes you extremely uncomfortable. Some people can't touch a spreadsheet. Some people, like me, God forbid I have a hammer, or even a nail,
Yep.
So But when it comes to the marketing side, do you have that thick skin where you feel you can talk to 100 of your friends and they're like, this is great, and not $1 comes in? You just, if you can't go through that initially, this could be a real sort of tough putt. But at the same time, you may be a spreadsheet whiz, or you've done, 5 Airbnbs, and you can make things look pretty for a quarter of the price of going external. You're very valuable then. You just got to find the right partner. So I just kind of say, long answer, but figure who you are first. And then if not, figure who you can partner with. And like, same deal, lock yourself in your room with them, these folks, for a few days, go on a trip, do more on the personal side than the work side, and see how it plays out.
I love it. I love it. I think that is such an important concept, just that partnering up where you're weak.
Yes.
And yeah, cover each other's bases. I love it. I love it. Okay. So what is your motivation in life? What gets you up every day and gets you going?
Yeah. I mean, right now, it's definitely my son. And I think you hear a lot of parents. I know you hear this a lot more from the single parent sort of side, but no, it's definitely this. And it's for opportunity. And obviously you do want a roof over the head and the basics, which we do provide, but also what is the opportunity, what to get here, whether it's a fire lifestyle, which a lot easier to do without kids than with kids, I would say. But that's one thing right now. How do you achieve that? Or if it's going to take a while, how do you make sure that you're still offering the life experiences at certain ages while still kind of pushing forward? So I'd say with this, and trust me, if you want to be humble, just have a little guy that can talk shit to you in 3 languages. It's pretty it's pretty fun. And yeah, but right now it's the trade-off. It's a trade-off with everything. And another side thing, and this I'm blanking out the moment on the authors, but a great couple. It's called 18 Summers. And it talks about that as a parent, you spend 85% of your time with your child before they're 18. So what is suggested, particularly if you have multiple children, is to have a dedicated day, much like a board meeting, once a quarter, where you, the parent, spend time, parent A with child 1, parent B with child 2, etc. No cell phones, maybe memorialize with the picture at the beginning of the day, but you let the child guide the conversations. So, a 3-year-old's going to have you at Walmart looking in the toy aisle for 6 hours, but it leads to baseball games. And then, ideally down the road, as, when you have to have those serious teenage conversations, it's a very safe space to have that. I know a lot of girl dads, it's not my case, but have said something similar to this has been, particularly before age 10, has been extremely beneficial to have these sort of moments. So, just another piece of advice for the crowd out there.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And what's that book called again?
I will Google it as we speak, but I want to say it's called 18 Summers.
Yeah, I really love that advice about having that one-on-one time. I mean, I'm not a parent. I'm 22, but it's like I've heard a lot of parents talk about getting that one-on-one time with kids, and it's something that's like me and my parents kind of have some barriers to entry right now, and I'm like, it would have been important if
so the website is 18, like the number 18summers.com, and it's Jim and Jamie Shields. And coincidentally, Jim and Jamie, we met at a real estate show and we talked about everything except real estate. I read their book and said, this is, as Hobie, I'm glad we talked on this. And maybe one other piece of advice is something that if it can go up in conversation, nobody ever said, oh, that's a terrible thing. So feel good about sharing.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that will also be in the show notes. Got plenty of good things in the show notes this time around, guys.
I should get a link here, get some CJ on it.
Yeah.
Play nice with your crowd.
All right. Well, this is my favorite part of the podcast now. We get to hop into your dreams and goals. So tell us about them. What are your dreams, goals, bucket list items that you want to accomplish in your life going forward?
Yeah, I mean, dreams, I'd say, like many folks here, it's the family of 4 with the house and in a good neighborhood, and just giving your, and your children have that aspect to go and play, the safety behind it, the ability for creativity, and not, you're in a neighborhood where it's not groupthink, so maybe that's a little easier said than done these days. Fortunately, myself, my wife, we're on the healthier side, so that's still a possibility. That's a near-term, I'd say, goal that we're focusing on. If not, we're still very blessed with other aspects of it. So that's one. The other thing is experience. And, I'd say pre-COVID, it was always where in the world to go and this and all of that. And I still think there's benefit. Israel's on the list. And obviously, we're going to bring our son where we go now with it. But I think it's much more literally the tangibility, the phone down, the iPad down, whether it's going to Big Bend. As I said, anything with water is just really cool. Something as simple as, the delta between going to, for our Texans here, going to Corpus or Port A, where a 4-year-old can swim out to the sandbar versus like being on the coast where it's like, whoa, 2 steps and we're playing with sandcastles today. There's little things like that in learnings that I think are very sort of exciting. And yeah, and then so with that, and I just think the ability to introduce, it's funny today, my dad would have been 79 and he passed a few years ago and his number was 14, playing. And it's unique. My son, and I think there's, we're all connected here, talked about having 14 fathers, like 14 father figures and mentors. So as I said, that was a, tear to the eye sort of thing when he said it, but I think that's really cool. So kind of matchmaking, and I of course have some folks in mind, and different folks are going to come in and out, different folks are permanent, but the delta of, as I talked about, everybody on the same block related in Scranton, PA, 10 families together, that's not the case, especially for us in a big urban area. So, my dream is, how does this natural sort of network come where you do have these fatherly figures and stuff, or motherly, and, also reverse mentoring coming up and down. So, is that something I do formal? I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but I do feel that's some part of my calling. I feel that's what I'm, exceptional at, is connecting for the right thing. So it's just, as I talk about 10xing certain things, that's something I would like to do. So yeah, as I said, I've been sure there's different parts of the world I'd want to see and different things to do. But at this stage, outside of my Friday afternoon at ACL every year in Zilker Park, that's I don't ask for much personally. So
Yeah, no, I feel that. I love that idea of building community. And I would say I really, really resonate with it because it's something we all need when it comes down to it. So
yeah, and I mean the rich dad poor dad analogy is a great great analogy. And I think there's other things too. It's, who's going to be your spiritual dad, your religious dad, and then what's the breaks on sort of that. Same deal on the, do you have I'm choosing dad, talking father figures, but mother's the same. Who is your creative person? Who's your just, your crazy tech wizard? Who's somebody that everything they touch is just completely beautiful? So I think kind of a, yeah, I mean, form, that sort of network of, identifying folks' superpowers earlier, and you don't want to clear yourself out of your energy, but giving that out. I mean, personally, in a microcosm of this, I serve as a mentor at Capital Factory and do 50 mentor calls a year. But I'm very specific about what we talk about. I just don't say, oh, I'm a fintech or real estate guy. I'm like, hey, go to market, SAMTAM, business development, when you have to expand and figure out your budget. So, that's pretty nerdy and pretty deep, but, hopefully from that leads to kind of something. So that's kind of the level of detail that you'd almost want to get to. So once again, it's not just a nice experience, but it's, one of these 10x or exponential X, meetings.
Yeah, no, I love it. You know what I would call you, Dan? I would call you a super connector.
Gracias. Very much.
Yeah, it's a concept I came across in one of these books that I read. I think it was by Bob Berg or something, where you just love connecting people, building that community, and like connecting people to like make things happen, bring potential out. And that's exactly what you were saying. And so I think it makes you a super connector.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's actually my goal to like build an audience of super connectors for this show instead of just having like a classic audience. It's like I want people who come in, like listen to the show and want to help the person that comes on the show. And so I hope you listen to my other episodes too.
It's recorded. It's down. You're triple liked. So awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so what caused you to take the first step towards your dreams and goals, or pursuing your dreams and goals?
Yeah. I mean, so let's talk about two of them. I mean, one is just on the connecting side. For me, naturally, I'm wired. I don't see why one wouldn't, and why you wouldn't want to try to connect for the best, and why you don't assume, I don't say the best of folks, but the best of what you perceive their superpower to be, and to connect, and that just fantastic things are going to happen. Once again, that's how I'm wired. A lot of folks are not. and I respect that. It's just the way that I am. So I'm going to plug through. That's what I've become a little bit smarter to know, just as folks are wired kind of a different way. So, there's that. Yeah. And the other thing is, once again, referring back to, uh, having a child in terms of like, quote unquote, were you a good parent? Which I'm not a big fan of the question, but I did hear this, and I thought it was from a fellow podcaster, and they said, "In when your kid is 25, is he or she going to want to hang out with you, go on trips with you?" And if that's yes, or communicate with to like a deep level, if that's yes, then yes, you did a quote unquote good job of parenting. So like talk about scariness. Startup, we can do stuff, we can do a deal. Even if we have a long thing, it's 7-8 years. But here's something like, all right, you did this for us. We talked 18 summers or so many 20 plus years, and like, did you? Yeah, how'd you do? It's a real, and a whole lot of things can change. So like, so for me, once again, being a little more entrepreneurial, I kind of love the dynamicy of this, and especially what you're going through. In some ways, being older parents, you almost skip a generation or a social generation. So I don't have a millennial in the family. It goes right to whatever, not even Gen Z. We're going another, whatever you call this one now. So it's pretty wild. So yeah, I just figure this is part of the dream is embracing this on the ride, but bringing it back to the core of the empathy, the directness. I don't whitewash anything. We talk very directly about everything. That's what I want to make sure my son is prepared for it, but I don't set him up out there to say something a little bit too crazy, but I want to make kind of the truth known on everything. So I think that's part of it too. At a certain point, if we were all on my island, you can have a much louder bullhorn because, well, you're sitting on your island, you have your coconuts, and life's great. If not, you do have to choose kind of when to speak up, how to speak up. So I view that as I said, I'd say part of my sort of dream is kind of how to do this accordingly. So, the truth is kind of out there. And as collectively, whatever my group, as micro as it is, can move forward once again in one of this, exponential fashions.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. I love it. I love it. Something you said, I like that question. When your kid is 25, will they want to hang out with you, communicate with you, connect with you on a deep level? It reminds me a lot of the 7 habits of highly effective people. Begin with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that concept. And
Yeah.
it's a good thing to get you going. So
And what's crazy about this, I mean, it's such a Boolean thing. Put on your startup hat. Well, yeah, startups fail good. They fail. A lot of them, finish somewhere in the middle. They drag or they get bought early and everything. But this is a real like, hey, you got 20 something plus years. You can't do anything catastrophic. You're gonna make a lot of mistakes, a lot of misjudgments, a lot of everything. But is it from the well, I guess it'd be the what and the how sort of things, kind of what you did. You don't want to do something egregious, but how you did it also, you have to make sure your tonality of it. So it's a really, and I think a lot of those lessons can be brought obviously into, as we call it, the real world and outside of the house.
yeah, no, for sure. I love it. So if you could name a few people right now that would help you get closer to your dreams, who would they be and how would they do it?
Ooh, well, I'm talking to one, my friend. So as we build out this great connecting platform, I think it's going to be super, super powerful. Yeah, I mean, keeping it, trust me, there's literally hundreds of folks that I can go off of here. Peter Stropel, a gentleman here in town at Friends of Peter, over 500 Saturday mornings. This was pre-COVID, and it was just, everybody was very vulnerable, talking about different things, but always like, here's what I can do, here's how I can achieve something great, here's an amazing idea I have, and everybody was open to it. So Peter personally, the Peters of the world, I like to be around. At the same time, there's fantastic executors out there. I think operators. I know some of our military friends are fantastic, and Chris Palmisano, who I worked with at Rockefeller, is somebody that's just amazing. You got to sometimes we're in Austin, we're all smiling, big vision and this and that. But guess what? Sometimes you got to get stuff done, and you got to do it really good to really push things forward. So, I was fortunate to work alongside him for a while here in Austin, and yeah, it's for those that lost a parent or older parents, it's cool having kind of a direct different relationship with my mom since my dad passed. It's very, it's good. I mean, you always knew she was smart and everything else, but there's a lot of other sort of, deep sort of wisdom sort of insights out there. So, yeah, I mean, that's, the types of folks, and obviously my mom, direct folks that I'm speaking with. And then, selfish question, who would I love to talk to? Yeah, I guess a slight challenge I'll say to our folks that wake up, I'm going to stereotype a bit here, but go to work, have, VP of some company, 6-figure salary. I would challenge you, and I'm happy to be your resource for this one-on-one conversation, to put some money back to Main Street, whether you do it through a self-directed IRA or otherwise to be a private investor. Don't just keep, although it's easy to do, 100% of your assets in stocks, bonds, in funds, in Wall Street. I do think doing something tangible, investing as brick or mortar real estate for 2 reasons. One is just, a la rich dad, poor dad, you need some sort of rich dad in your life. Or at least, secondly, I think in terms of liking and trusting, there's a great quote, how do you know if somebody likes you or trusts you? Well, if they trust you, they give you money, so I do think there is some credence to that because, at a certain stage of life, like, I mean, shit, do you want to like everything? No, I think you want to commit to certain things. And, us Gen Xers, trust me, we punted the ball a long time before a bunch of things. But yeah, and then finally, I just think it's, kind of in this, those that go to Jimmy John's and you read How Much Is Enough out there. It's, it's very unnatural for us as human beings to have so much of our resources or time or energy for something so far away that we never see, feel, touch, or hear, a la funds, a la big stock, bonds, et cetera, where you can bring stuff back to your community. So, that would be my challenge in my offering for folks that if that, even drops a little seed to say, I want to learn a little bit more. What made you kind of come out of your, your upbringing to do it? I'm more than happy to share.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. That is, I think that is a worthy call to action right there, Dan.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, name the most important 1 or 2 things that people outside of those few people like Peter or Chris, with the big ideas and the positivity that everybody receives, or the fantastic executors. What can the people listening to this show do to you or do to help you with your dream? Maybe of like the building community, because I'm really curious about that one. I know we kind of talked about putting money into real estate and reaching out to you for that, but
yeah. It's once again the like versus trust. So with I can respect folks that are my friends, but they're also investors. So I'll hold some names behind. But a gentleman, John Manus, he was I'd say one of my clients at Sparefoot back in the day. Went on his own about 6 years ago and raised a great storage portfolio. Made a lot of investors very happy, but a very community minded. We would hang out a lot. We'd talk stuff. We'd have, of course, the quote unquote serious, quarterly investor calls and such. But there was a deep sense of community that literally all of our money was in the game together. We're going on this ride together and we're going to learn about things together. We're going to talk about when different things happen. And then when we were physically together, it was much more on the personals. 90% of the time was personal, 10% talking business. That was awesome. So, and what did it all come to? I mean, it was something that was, obviously it's nice when the market's ticking up and down, quote unquote. But yeah, I mean, that's, as I said, that's something that I'm going to have a small group, and hopefully it becomes bigger, but not too big. But there'll always be that time with my group or subgroups to kind of get together and have that sort of sense of community. So, like the biggest prideful thing is I see folks when that, in a positive sense of pride, is as they build out this community or a company and they can finally host their first event for all their clients to come to, all their investors. Like, as I'm getting closer to that, like that's pretty awesome. It seems like, oh, that's great, I'm going for a free dinner. But when you step back, like, somebody's taken this from nothing, say whether it's my 5, my 10, my 100, maybe not bigger than that, but I want you to come together at this personal thing. And then people can connect here with that sort of, by default, they're all commonly tied in with at least one thing. I think that's a really, really cool thing. So, yeah, I would just say for folks, I mean, my track record, have a little trust in me and at least open to the conversation to see if it's to dip a toe or cannonball in with me in some of this investing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Okay, the next part of our show is the Thriving 3. And so I love to hear about how people thrive in life. And I asked 3 questions, one about how you learn, how you care for yourself, and action you're taking. So we're going to Hop right into that. What's up?
I'm smoking a cigarette. No, I'm joking when you said how to take care of myself.
All right, Dan. Well, what's your favorite book?
Favorite book. I'm gonna, just 18. I'm gonna go with the 18 Summers book that we're talking by Jim and Jamie Shields. I have a bunch of them, but this one is I love it. Yeah, 18 Summers. I'm going with it.
I love it.
It's actually called, the official title is The Family Board Meeting. I know that can sound like, ooh, like we're in an old stodgy room, but yeah, so The Family Board Meeting, Jim Shields, Sheils, is one of my many favorite books, but it's a good one. It's a good one to have in the back pocket and to give out.
Awesome. Sounds good. What's one way you like to care for yourself?
Stand-up paddleboard, yoga, and the easiest, and trust me, there's been times in my life when I was, the fat kid going to school in Philly, down to 2 cheesesteaks a day. You can, even if that's you at the stage of your life, turn around in your bed, put your feet up the wall, start your day with literally the blood rushing from your feet down to your head. I'd suggest that. So that's something that I do on a daily basis.
I feel that. I like that. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
What does that exactly do for you? Just curious.
One is, especially, that, I had to drive from South Oklahoma yesterday. One is literally as they say in a plane, you should move around, et cetera. Kind of take that analogy, and, probably most of our lives, it's worse than being on, you just walk a little bit in the airport. So it's literally to just shift the flow of blood. Plus it's kind of meditative. You really can't go anywhere while you're doing this. So, sometimes you can put in earbuds, other times it's peaceful. Other times, like, me here in Austin, in the middle of where there's construction 24/7, you try to knock it out at 4 or 5 in the morning. And guess what? When you turn around, your feet are on the floor. So it gives you a little, kind of a self kick in the ass to get the day going. So
yeah, I love it. Awesome. What is one action step you can take right now or continue to take right now to get to your dreams?
It's not, especially now that traveling's picking back up, it's to be healthy, and I say this to be very specific with that. At least once a month for 2, 3, 4 days, raw fruit in the morning, raw veggies, and trust me, there's that moment when you've kind of cleaned yourself out after a few days of it. It's a really good, it's a different feeling. Most of us, even folks that are not stereotypically American fat, in shape, there's a lot of bad stuff in our body, and just what's in the air and what we eat versus say Australia, for example, you're going to feel it more. So it is a conscious effort, and you do have to hold pretty strict, super raw, it's not going to kill you. Frankly, it's painfully healthy for you for 3 or 4 days. And that also mentally, I think it's almost like a cleanse, like for people that go away, don't talk to somebody for a few days or this or that. In our, your active urban lifestyle, it's frankly not that hard to do. You can still drink coffee from my coffee drinkers out there and do it. And it's a different feeling too. So, my wife jokes that when I do that, I'm, closer to her body temperature than mine, where you'll feel a little bit colder because you're not having, as I joke, meat pump or blue cheese pumping through your veins there all the time. So I do think it's, especially for kind of my middle-aged and older folks out there, you will feel a huge delta, because for some of us, life gets busy and it could be 10, 20, 30 years, frankly, since we felt this good. So easy to do. Now that I'm back from my travel, that's kind of what I'm doing here. And by Monday, hopefully I'm feeling great. So
yeah. And so is that fresh or raw fruit and veggies all day or just in the mornings?
No, all day. So it's better to have fruit in the morning because of the sugar content than veggies. There, it could be a salad, everything else, but maybe tofu for protein. But if beans are probably better, I would just go strictly, 100% veggie raw as is. In smoothies is fine, in shakes is fine, all of that stuff. And and depending on how otherwise you take care of yourself, you can kind of, and you'll notice it when you've kind of felt that delta. And from there, it's a lifestyle choice. So I wouldn't say, hey, permanently do this, but it's kind of a good, say, monthly thing, or every 6 weeks, like, okay, I just got to get back to, par. And then funny thing is, once you do that, of course, and you start eating your normal, pizza, beer sort of stuff, which trust me, I love, and that's my Friday ritual. You're going to notice what's kind of going into your system. And even stuff that's frozen versus not frozen, even though it's fresh and organic, trust me, in the US, it's a pretty big delta, kind of what we're putting ourselves into our body. So
yeah, for sure. Gotcha. Gotcha. I'll have to take you up on that advice because I like feeling good. What is there anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
No, as I say, especially for my folks in Austin, let's meet. We can go for a walk around the lake, do whatever. For folks listening from afar, likewise busy with kids, ping me. Let's have that. Even if it's a 5-minute talk, straight talk, like to kind of get you mentally off of that. Hey, 9 to 5 hamster wheel, max out my 401k, and life's going to be grand when I turn 60, and I'm going to feel good about myself. Maybe, maybe not. There's more in life to experience. So I at least want to open up to folks that I'm happy to be if you want to let down and should be a little vulnerable, I'm happy to be the compassionate ear on the other end for that conversation.
Awesome. Well, you heard the man. If you were listening to this show and you liked anything Dan had to say, give him a call, chat with him. The man has a lot of wisdom and he's happy to talk with you and start building that community. Maybe you could be part of his little niche group that he got going. But thank you for listening, Dan. Thank you so much for being on the show, and we're out.